Live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 144. This is Joy News Prime with me, Emefa Apawu. Our top stories is our astronomical surge in food prices forces some consumers to cut down on meals. We have details as various meal formula are developed in order to save some cash.
If I chop in the morning, I don't chop again. I'll wait till the evening around 6, 7 and I just eat something small. Because the way things are going, if you say you'll be eating in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, hey, you can't even pay your rent.
Meanwhile, there are growing calls for President Akufo-Addo to address the nation as the Ghana cedi continues its free fall. We hear the latest intervention by the government.
The president will be in the chair to receive what has gone through the EMT and also to receive the updates from the IMF negotiations so that some decisions can be made. And then subsequently, he can then update the nation on the next steps forward.
Excavators not registered within the next 7 days will be confiscated as government moves Galamsey fight into a new phase. Also, Asante Achim Central NADMO set to enforce directive asking residents to move from their homes as illegal mining has rendered homes literally hanging by a thread.
We cannot allow this Galamsey to go on in our house. You know, this lady who died this morning, she's not beneficiary of the mining, but she has died this morning because of somebody being a beneficiary of that mining.
Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana calls for an immediate directive for banks to prioritize the pharmaceutical sector with forex solutions and loans at preferential rates to ensure the continuous availability of medicines. We have details as they call on NHIA to reimburse service providers to avert a national health crisis. Thanks for staying with us. And we start off with consumers and vendors of prepared food. And food items are reeling under the pressures of meteoric rise in prices, which is forcing them to cut down on the number of meals consumed in a day. Some traders who also spoke to Joy News said it is becoming impossible for them to sell their products as the taxes on these items keep increasing with a corresponding increase in the dollar rates. Currently, you will need over 15 cedis to buy $1. And there is no end in sight to salvage the distressed economy. We'll hear the latest intervention from government amidst the growing calls for the president to address the nation about the reality of the situation. But first, my colleague Hannah Odame has been interacting with some food vendors and consumers in the following report.
These gentlemen who had just finished consuming their breakfast of banku and soup when the news team got to the chop bar stated how they have been very tactful with the amounts they spend on food daily.
Currently, if I chop in the morning, I don't chop again. I'll wait till the evening around 6, 7 and I just eat something small. Because the way things are going, if you say you'll be eating in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, hey, you can't even pay your rent. So currently, if I eat in the morning, I don't take in anything. So in the evening when I close and I get home, I just get something small, then I just take it.
For Ma Chocho, who sells assorted cooked foods, the low patronage to her eatery, which she attributes to the extra cost of her food prices, says she can't do much about it.
First, none toso adaka them says 600 as any 500. Baby, I'm saying toso no. Unto me adaka no quiet 12,002. Unto me to. It's ama say no customers no eswati. If say omunis cut say first now be a bedroom ba beto aduane na ade no.
Auntie Chocho is saying that she was in the market on Saturday and a box of tomato which she used to buy for 600 cedis is now being sold at 1,200. But the downside of all of this is that Auntie Chocho says this is also affecting the frequency at which her customers used to come to her shop. Her concern is reiterated by Auntie Jane, the bread seller, and Abdul, the tea seller.
Just last month was sold, it was 6 cedi, the Prema. Now it's 13 cedis. Why?
As the news team left the market, these traders said they still had concerns to voice out. For Joy News, I am Hannah Odame.
Now, members of the clergy have also joined calls for drastic measures to be taken to salvage the economy from the downturn. Here's a report on that.
We are not going to the IMF. Whatever we do, we are not.
Mr. Ofori-Atta has been under pressure since government opted for an IMF program. He, however, continues to enjoy support from President Akufo-Addo.
I came to office in 2017. Good. Under an IMF program, which Emmanuel Biden said, stringent program. This same man was able to manage the affairs of our economy in such a way, sir. The first 4 years of my first term, we were one of the fastest growing economies in the world, an average growth rate of 7% a year from the beginnings of an IMF program.
Economist Professor Godfred Bokpin ever say he lacks the capacity to continue to lead the negotiations with the IMF.
Anytime we are outside an IMF program, the fund, the development partners, they are a bit lenient with their comments, more diplomatic. But when you come under a program, you've lost your bargaining power. So you see how they are coming hard at us now. They are asking you to prove this.
Show proof, yeah.
So last year you were not under any program, so they could understand your assumptions. You can explain that, oh, how about this debt? Oh, you know, this is ring fence, this is that, this is this is that. But right now, they are saying everything must come on board. So especially when you check in such a vulnerable state, you don't have, you can't negotiate from position of strength. We shouldn't have gotten ourselves in this place. To come out of this, as I said, what the market is looking for is that bold decision from the government that says that, look, and it may have to be a bit radical, which means that you are sacrificing your interest and the interest of your inner core and your political party for the common good. Other than that, if you tell me that these people have performed excellently, then probably it will be for reasons not for the common good.
A view shared by some men of the pulpit.
But wrong is wrong. When you are wrong, I need to look in your eyes and tell you, you are wrong. That is what is killing this nation. This is the time, Your Excellency, to make changes. And those changes must be to the honor and glory of God. Our finance minister, who even though is a Christian, have failed miserably. And I am telling Your Excellency, with all due respect, this is the time to make drastic changes. We cannot sit here when $1 is equal to 12 cedis. 12 cedis!
Milk, which was 2 Ghana cedis, now 8, 7. How would a mother buy milk and put in a tea or porridge for her children? In less than 24 hours, our cedi had depreciated against the dollar from 1390 to 15,000. It's 15. 16. It's now 16. Recently, the vice president arrested a cedi and locked it. Is it the dollar or the cedi? The dollar. The dollar, and locked the dollar up. I hear the dollar has broken jail.
Well, guests on last Saturday's news file believe this is the time for leadership to be shown. They want the president to address the nation about the true state of the country. Here are some of your views.
The ordinary people also have the right to demand or to make certain statements or make certain demands on the president for reshuffle and for changes to be made to it, because we are the direct beneficiaries, of whatever these appointees do. And so that is where you expect the president, who is supposed to be a listening president, to see that it can never be true that all Ghanaians are wrong and he, the president alone, is right. I don't hate the president. I mean, I've maintained a certain position. I am a political scientist. I'm supposed to play the role of a referee. If it is right, we comment. If it is wrong, we say it. And I'm saying that failure to reshuffle at the moment, is tantamount to a needless dissipation of the limited human resource that we have that can be able to be brought on board to help us navigate our way out of the quagmires of economic miserizations which we find ourselves.
Okay.
An IMF program, the big U-turn, and you can see so far there's a certain implicit position that government has also delayed in terms of the role they could have played in fast-tracking the program. The call was made on 1st July. It took government so long in putting its house in order. And if you look at the speed with which the IMF responded to that call, the call was made on 1st July. 5 days or so, the IMF had dispatched a team to the country. It was as though they had bought their ticket already and they were just waiting, right? Subsequent to that, if you look at the number of visits, you see that they themselves recognize a certain level of urgency about the situation that is not same here from the managers of the economy.
With where we are now, we're talking almost 40% inflation. You're talking over 50% depreciation of the exchange rate, year to date. You're talking about, potentially people struggling to get access to their monies. We're talking about the potential debt restructuring and all of those things. These things are affecting people's bread and butter, livelihoods, right? And the signaling that the government or the president needs to send is to, one, speak to the nation, but number two, also change some of the ministers, in my view, starting with the finance minister.
Well, government is currently seeking an IMF intervention. We all know that to turn the country's fortunes around. The IMF team is expected in the country this week as the Ghanaian side remains hopeful a staff-level agreement will be reached by end of year. Ahead of that, government has been announcing some interim interventions to fix the depreciation of the cedi and also fix what the banks call the overpricing of the dollar on the market. Here's Information Minister Kojo Oponkroma.
All that right from the beginning of this year, government has been updating the country on some key economic matters. You recall in April, or just at the end of March, when Cabinet held its first quarter retreat, I updated you all on the kind of economic pressures that we were of the view was going to befall us because of what was going on, and some of the measures that the government was introducing right at that time to help containment. That's where we introduced the cuts to budget and a few other measures as addressed by the finance minister. At the end of the second quarter, when Cabinet held its retreat and the president had the opportunity to see the numbers again, you recall the president instructed that we start negotiations with the International Monetary Fund. And so the statement was released on, I think, the 1st of July. Just after the second quarter retreat. Since then, there have been a lot of engagements with the fund, and a number of statements have been released to update the Ghanaian public on how that is going, and it's going pretty well. This week, as we are coming to the end of the third quarter period, going into the final quarter fully, tomorrow morning, for example, the central bank, the Bank of Ghana, will be meeting the managing directors of some of the banks and the heads of, I think, the Forex Bureau associations for a series of discussions aimed at ensuring that the supply of Forex onto the Forex markets is stabilized and the overpricing is also halted, and that people who need access to Forex for legitimate transactions can get same without hindrance in the banking halls and at the Forex bureaus, as against on the black market or using some rates coming from some other quarters. They'll also be looking at, I think, some of the longer lasting measures to ensure that Forex trade is stabilized in this country.
Well, government has stepped up to the fight against illegal mining. The aim is to track all excavators across the country. Owners have been handed 7 days to register the vehicles with relevant assemblies or risk losing them. Galamsey, we know, continues to wreak havoc in the country, and we're talking about our No to Galamsey hashtag. And over the weekend, a 26-year-old woman died in what neighbors say was as a result of her toilet sinking into a pit dug under her house by illegal miners at Odumase in the Asante Achim Central Municipality. Love FM's Rasta Sasari Donko was at the scene. Here's his report.
This amateur video shows final moments when an excavator dug out the remains of Gifty Manka, 26, who close friends say was pregnant. Her death tells a tragic tale of the dangerous impact of mining in residential facilities at Odumase in the Asante Achim Central Municipality. So imagine waking up in the morning and deciding to visit the nature's call. What is supposed to be a natural activity turns out to be your death. This is what happened here today at Odumase in the Asante Achim Central Municipality. The lady in question, a young woman who lives in this house, was attending to nature's call. The entire structure in which she was doing her business collapsed in a heap, went down into what is supposed to be a mining pit. Now, if you look around this area, there are lots of these pits within these houses at Odumase actively mining. And this is what caused the death of a lady here. Where I'm standing right now, just close to me, inside here, you could see another pit inside this house, and it goes deep down. And that is what the indigents here, this is how they do their illegal mining. The entire residential toilet sank into the deep pit beneath the building, as recounted by a resident.
Yeah, it's as a result of the Galamsey, it's not about the toilet. And we have to speak the truth. And we need to stop it. And we have to come together as a nation to stop this Galamsey madness. But we cannot allow this Galamsey to go on in our houses.
Let's head on to the phone line now and join Joyce Ochirabe. She's the NADMO coordinator for Asante Achim Central. We are grateful for your time here on Joy News Prime. So we understand the Assembly has on quite a number of occasions issued evacuation notices for residents. When was the last time you issued one? And are you practically expecting residents to abandon their homes? Hello, Madam Abeye.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much once again for joining us. I was asking that this is not the first time you've issued such notification to residents. But before you answer that, let me find out about this latest development and what exactly are the measures that you've taken.
Thanks very much, please. The current happening... Please, can I go ahead?
Yes, you can, ma'am.
Yes, please. The current happening is about Gifty Manka, a 26-year-old lady who happened to be caged in a toilet facility at Odumase. Currently, the body of the deceased has been deposited at Yakwe Tiwok Hospital. And God willing, other matters are going on to curb this situation on ground as of now.
So we understand that you're asking residents to evacuate their homes. And it appears this is not the first time you're issuing such notification. How do they abandon their homes? Are there alternatives for them?
Exactly. NADMO normally, and last year, we've been sending evacuation notifications to commitants in that area. NADMO goes out there, we assess the situation on ground, and realized that the place was disaster-prone. So we had to issue a notification to them all to move out of that particular location. But it was to no avail until this current incident yesterday. So NADMO is still in collaboration with all the other stakeholders involved on this matter. Matters will be handled, God willing, tomorrow The security committee in the Asante Achim Central Municipality will be meeting tomorrow, and the matters will be spearheading on the table to come around with a message for the entire community to keep the situation on ground.
Well, we are wondering where residents are supposed to be moved to. Are there alternatives for them?
For the assembly nor NADMO have no alternative for residents where they should move to. But the advice and the counsel is that you move to a family member, you move to a friend. For we do not want another gifty encounter again. The gifty disaster, as at now, we do not want that happening anymore. So to save your life, to save the souls of Ghanaians, we would advise, and we are advising that they relocate to friends and family members.
But how serious is the situation in that area? We're told that it looks like every home, and that beneath every home, there's some form of illegal mining ongoing there. What's your assessment of the situation there? How serious is it?
As I earlier said, the place has been identified as a disaster-prone site. You go on ground and realize that most of the houses have cracks in them. So we had no option than to issue all the other measures to ask them to relocate, which many of them did not do to that advice. But as I earlier said, all the other stakeholders are on grounds to keep this situation at hand now.
Okay, but just for confirmation, before I let you off, we're hearing that Gifty could have been pregnant. Is that the case from your assessment so far?
No, please. We were on grounds yesterday, and we were on grounds this morning and this afternoon today. From one-on-hand conversation with family members, we realized that the victim, the deceased, was never a pregnant lady. She was never, though married, she was not pregnant. Information gathered on grounds yesterday and today, midday, was that the lady was never pregnant while we were on grounds to visit the deceased family.
Okay, we're grateful. That's
please, I'm not in charge of.
Okay, well, so that's the Joyce Ochre Abeye there, works with NADMO in the Asante Achim district, been joining us with details of that. Now, let's take a look at the directives issued by the government in the fight against illegal mining. The legislative instrument issued under the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources reads, all owners, operators, and or users of excavators in the country shall within 7 days of this notice, excluding weekends and statutory holidays, register their excavators with the Metropolitan, Municipal or District Assembly, that's the MMDA, with jurisdiction over the area where the excavator is located. And for the avoidance of doubt, the deadline for the registration of all excavators in the country is by close of business on Wednesday, 2nd November 2022. And an owner, operator and or user of an excavator shall, at the time of registration, specify the purpose for which the excavator is being used or to be used and the area where the excavator is being used or will be used, as the case may be. And it goes on to say, we'll go on to point 4. And it goes on to say that MMDAs shall, or as part of the registration, record the following. That's A, the name and particulars of the owner of the excavator, the date the excavator was brought into the country, the registration number of the excavator, the chassis number of the excavator, the purposes for which the excavator was brought into the country, the area where the excavator is expected to be used, the name and particulars of the current operator and or user of the excavator, and any other particulars the MMDA may deem necessary. And to point 5, it says any excavator not registered in accordance with this directive, whether found at a mining site or any other operational site or elsewhere, shall be seized, and the necessary legal steps taken to confiscate same to the state. And also, in conclusion, the Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development has been formally notified of these measures and has directed all MMDAs to ensure strict compliance with same. And it says notice is hereby given to the general public and particularly owners and operators of excavators as well as all MMDAs to ensure strict compliance. And finally, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources wishes to reassure the general public that it will continue to take the necessary measures to protect our natural environment, particularly water bodies, forests and lands, in a transparent and sustainable manner anchored on integrity. And that's a statement signed by Samuel Abujinapo, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. But still on illegal mining, the Attorney General's office says it has successfully filed all documents it intends to rely on in its prosecution of Aisha Wang. She is standing trial for her alleged role in illegal mining activities in the Ashanti region. The AG on October 11 told the court it was ready for the trial and will disclose all evidence to be used. It, however, emerged in court today that the document had not been submitted. The AG's office says he's been able to provide the documents. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has more.
The court was informed on Monday that the Attorney General had not submitted the documents. Deputy AG Alfred Yeboah said his officers were at the registry filing the documents. This explanation did not sit well with lawyer for Aisha Wang in Krabia Efadate. He urged the court to grant his client's bail yet again. The court, however, turned down the request. Justice Lydia Mafu explained that the circumstances that led her to decline an earlier request for bail had not changed. She also took notice of the fact that the Chinese interpreter needed for proceedings was also absent. She therefore adjourned proceedings to November 2, 2022, directing the Attorney General to ensure that the documents are made available to enable case management and pre-trial conference to take place. Deputy AG Alfred Yeboah told pressmen the delay was only as a result of his office being diligent.
We have complied with it, but it wasn't within time, as I told the court. As we speak, it's been done. The whole thing is, if you are prosecuting a case like what we have at the moment, you need to dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure all the documents are made available to counsel on the other side. That's what we've done. So on the next agenda, definitely they are going to move on.
I mean, and are you ready to go on with this? I mean, the other lawyer on the other side was making the point that you had wanted to withdraw some of the documents that you had found.
Yes, earlier on we filed some witness statements. So the new ones that we can file, we've incorporated the old ones into them. So on the next agenda, it's a matter of just withdrawing the old one, and then we have this full complement of the witness statement.
Aisha Wang is accused of being heavily involved in Galamsey activities. She was arrested and charged in 2017 but left the country after she was repatriated. She is accused of sneaking into the country to continue with her illegal mining. She has at all times maintained her innocence of the charges leveled against her.
You can still join the conversation on the hashtag No to Galamsey on all our social media platforms. Away from that, the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana is calling on the Finance Ministry to, as a matter of urgency, direct the Association of Bankers to prioritize the pharmaceutical sector and support them with forex solutions and loans at preferential rates to ensure the availability of medicines. A statement from the society in response to the joint press statement by the Ghana National Chamber of Pharmacy, the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association of Ghana, and the Pharmaceutical Importers and Wholesalers Association of Ghana on the effects of the harsh economic conditions on pharmaceutical businesses, which is forcing them to revert to the cash and carry system. My colleague Richard Kojonyako has a copy of that statement, joins me via Zoom with details on this. Richard, first, the statement highlights the negative impacts of the return to the cash and carry system. Walk us through it.
Well, so Emefa, they say that as a professional body of pharmacists, their concern is the negative impact the unfortunate economic downturn would have on the health of patients, which is no fault of the players of the pharmaceutical sector. They further say that the current situation has reduced the import and manufacturing capital of companies, which therefore raises a big issue of security of medicines in the country. And they say that there is a risk of medicines availability, lack of access to medications, increase in prices of medicines, potential compromise of quality of medications, and the potential increase in fake and substandard medications. They go on to say that there is a risk of drop in the offering of services by the NHIS service providers, and then there is also the risk of shortages and therefore unavailability of pharmaceuticals, which will impact on progress towards universal health coverage. And then they go on to say, to the community pharmacists, the cost of replacement of stocks is a major issue as they need recapitalization to maintain their dwindling stocks. And finally, they say hospitals would be faced with shortages of medicines as they are dependent on credit from suppliers. And this will impact on emergency medicines, anesthetics, and as well as life-saving medicines.
And they have two key recommendations.
Well, so they say that to ensure health commodities securitization, especially medicines, the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana recommends the following: that the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana urgently work with the Ghana Association of Banks to prioritize the pharmaceutical sector and support them with forex solutions and loans at preferential rates to ensure the availability of medicines. And secondly, as a matter of urgency, the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana calls on the National Health Insurance Authority to reimburse the National Health Insurance Service providers to enable them to make outstanding payment due suppliers. And the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana would be convening a meeting with all the relevant stakeholders to find out how to support or how they can support the other stakeholders in the pharmaceutical industry.
Richard Kujonyako there, many thanks. Well, we will be monitoring this particular situation to find out what exactly the next move will be by government regarding this particular situation. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Emefa Apawu. Still to come in the bulletin, poor parental control and poverty identified as key factors accounting for Ghana's increasing cases of teenage pregnancy and child marriage.
4 months ago to have a big...
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. And Dom Kwabinya MP Sarah Apawu will know her fate this week when Parliament resumes from its 3-month recess. The MP had been absent for more than the constitutionally allowable days, with the Privileges Committee of the House recommending she lose her seat as MP. Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin will make the decision on the matter when the House reconvenes. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante looks ahead at the big issues Parliament will be dealing with upon their return on Tuesday.
It went on break in July, a divided House on whether or not MP for Dom Kwabinya Sarah Apawu should keep her seat.
Mr. Speaker, the committees of this House has the authority to determine the urgency of a bill. Once they make a determination, it binds all of us. Plenary has no business in this. People should understand that. So this is not the first time a committee is authorized to make a declaration for on behalf of the House.
And the Parliament of Ghana is not the Speaker of Parliament. And that the Parliament and Parliament of Ghana is not the chairman of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament. And that Parliament is not the majority leader, nor is it the minority leader. That the Parliament of Ghana is the well-constituted 275 members of Parliament elected thereon to exercise the legislative authority of Ghana on their behalf. On their behalf. And therefore, Mr. Speaker,
so a report has to come to this House, and the committee has to demonstrate to this House that the person was given the opportunity to exercise reasonable explanation, and the person did not provide reasonable explanation.
Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin deferred the decision to October when the House resumes.
I have consulted the old lady. The old lady has given me an advice, and I think that advice is correct, because the issue raised by the majority leader is both of substantive and procedural law. And I need time to submit to this House a reasoned, written ruling. I cannot, in the haste of today, give you the ruling.
Well, the time is due now, and with MPs returning from their constituencies on Tuesday, the Speaker's ruling is the most anticipated on the business agenda of the House. So this has been a long-drawn battle. The lines are drawn now. The majority side are going all out to argue that Sarah Apawu should lose her seat, whilst the minority, surprisingly, are rather supporting the Member of Parliament, saying, if anything at all, that debate must come to the floor and the 275 members of Parliament should take that decision. It is expected to drag on for a while. When Parliament resumes in October, members will be expected to go back to this vexed question and take a decision that will potentially leave some precedent for the future. This Sarah Apawu saga is not going away. Parliament will also deal with a number of key issues at this meeting, including considering the 2023 budget and economic plan of government in the times of economic difficulties and hardship, as well as a number of bills. For Joy News, Kweku Asante.
Well, minority in Parliament has waded into the controversy surrounding the appointment of Dr. Eric Nkansa as Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Only last week, the majority or the major teachers' unions kicked against the appointment and asked President Akufo-Addo to revoke the appointment. Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee, Dr. Clement Apawu, said the teacher unions are right in opposing the appointment. He was speaking at the launch of JKD Network in Accra. Parliamentary correspondent once again, Kweku Asante, with the rest of the story.
Dr. Clement Apawu was speaking at the launch of JKD Language Network, a group of university graduates seeking to make learning Chinese and French popular in Ghana. Dr. Apawu said the concerns of the teacher unions are valid.
Because the argument has been made by the teacher unions, rightly so, that up until his appointment, he had only taught briefly, not even a full-time capacity, but that by training, he's a banker. And that he had been deployed to the minister's office in 2021 as one of his senior aides. So clearly the teacher unions had a problem where you take away a man who, quote unquote, rose through the ranks, is a professional, is an academic, has taught in the classroom before, and had actually earned his due. And you replace him with somebody who has also earned his due, but in a different area of expertise. And so that is why the teacher unions are opposed to this appointment, not because it is Dr. Eric Nkansa, but it is because of the background that he's bringing to the table and how they feel that they also want one of their own who has risen through the ranks, somebody who understands what it means, the challenges that you face.
He claimed that the former GES Director General, Professor Opoku Amankwa, was sacked because of his frosty relationship with the Education Minister.
I was a bit taken aback because anyone who has followed the educational sector and the issues thereof would find it very difficult to admit that Professor Opoku Amankwa's set of skills, talent was no longer needed, and that the exigencies that, quote unquote, warranted his appointment no longer existed. That cannot be the case. I have said, and it's on record, that the only real reason is because of the frosty relationship between Professor Opoku Amankwa and the Honorable Yao Educhum as a Minister and Director General.
He, however, says his side is willing to give Dr. Eric Nkansa the benefit of the doubt to prove critics wrong.
Now, poor parental control and poverty have been identified as key factors accounting for Ghana's increase in cases of teenage pregnancy and child marriage. The challenges are impeding the ability of a girl child to attain her full potential, largely in formal education. To end the problem, government introduced a 5-year strategic plan to retain the girl child in school with or without pregnancy. The journey has, however, not been easy for girls in such situations. In the second part of a Joy News Hotline documentary dubbed Girls, School, Pregnancy, we hear stories of some of these adolescents and actors in the education space on interventions being deployed to make life easy in school for them. Your excerpts.
Charity's partner, 23-year-old Destiny, is a sales boy in Accra. He goes back home occasionally to visit his family. It was during one of such visits that he got Charity pregnant. But from all indications, the couple has been having sex for close to 3 years without protection. He now regrets his actions.
You were not having sex so that she became pregnant?
No, I was scared, but
you were scared.
Yeah.
So why didn't you think about the condom or those things to stop you from getting her pregnant?
Okay, that would be my fault. Not using the condom or telling her to do family plan or something like that. That would be my fault.
Why? Why are you saying it's your fault?
Because I didn't use it.
Did she ask you to do it, to use it?
Nah. But me not making ready makes me that I did effort. I did a mistake. Yeah.
Well, the second part of this full documentary will be airing at 8:30 p.m. right here on the Joy News channel and all our social media platforms. You ought to make a date for it. And the NDC constituency polls in the Ashanti region, despite pockets of challenges that characterize the elections of the NDC in the Ashanti region, delegates stayed alert in eagerness to cast their ballot. Former Ashanti Regional Deputy Minister in the Mahama administration, Joseph Yamin, says the posture of delegates are indicative of the quest for success in the 2024 general elections. There's more in this report.
The NDC constituency election in the Ashanti region was held for 2 days on Saturday and Sunday. 2 constituencies out of 47, Swame and Menchia South, had issues with their album and injuncted election. Delayed and insufficient ballot papers are challenges that affected polling in some constituencies. Notwithstanding, delegates stayed awake throughout the day and night to cast their ballot and to witness collation. In Asawase constituency, the atmosphere was calm as delegates exercised their franchise with enthusiasm. Member of Parliament for the area, Muntaka Mohammed, says additional polling centers were created to fast-track the process.
Well, I would say that it's been very smooth. I mean, we thank all the delegates, the Electoral Commission, the police, and everyone who has made it possible for this process to start very smoothly. You can see the voting is going on well. We've created 3 polling stations, so just to make it fast because we have over 2,000 delegates.
The unopposed Ishaiso constituency chairman, Ernest Afayam, says the high voter turnout was as a result of current economic hardship. He entreats party folks to be of good behavior to win more votes for the party.
If the good people of Ishaiso have honored me by letting me go unopposed, it means that they've seen something in me that they haven't seen in others. So as a result of that, it should be a motivation and an encouragement to rally each and every one in Ishaiso constituency to mobilize more support base. How do we do that? We make the party very attractive and very vibrant and visible. In that respect, people will resonate with us and we will get there.
The turnout at polling centers was encouraging. Joseph Yamin, who is vying for national organizer for the NDC, described the posture of delegates as a sign of hope and eagerness to win power in the 2024 general election.
Well, I think it's a free process. The atmosphere was very conducive. The party exhibited electoral knowledge because we are not seeing much of rejected votes, which means that our people are understanding the voting process, and that's a good sign for us. And the participation of the people, as you can see, they are still awake, wanting to know the outcome of the elections. They started very early in the morning, and they are still here, which means that the people are eager from today to the 2024 elections. And I think it's a good sign for us.
Joseph Yamin says lessons have been learned in the distribution of electoral logistics going into the election of regional executives. Counting started in most polling centers around 7 p.m. amidst professional security conduct. Though polling centers were a bit dark for the process, counting of ballots was under a calm and peaceful atmosphere. The Ashanti Regional Communications Director of the NDC, Abbas Nuruddin, says the absence of vigilantism at the polling center was commendable. He applauded party folks for respecting the rule of law.
So far, the process has been very peaceful. There were no issues with vigilantism because it was the mainstream state security that took charge. The Electoral Commission has also done a very good job. So I think I would commend Ashanti Region NDC for having conducted this election in a very civilized, in a very calm, in a very transparent manner.
Now, the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral are making a passionate appeal to donors to keep the donations coming through. Worsening economic conditions in the country have forced many to cut back on their expenses. Construction of the cathedral has stalled also for months due to insufficient funds. The Secretariat overseeing the construction of the cathedral, however, says although times are hard, it believes individuals will donate to the cause. Here's a member of the Board of Trustees, Dr. Joyce Ayi, at a news conference earlier today.
Human beings are so resilient. I am 76. I have lived through worse economic times in our country. And therefore, I know that economic times are as transient as, let's say, the seasons of life. The second point is that God has a way of touching our lives in ways that sometimes we don't understand. I mean, we're still going to church, aren't we? And we're still making donations, aren't we? The times are difficult. And that's what gives me hope that never mind how difficult times are, some people will willingly support. And that's what we're looking for.
Meanwhile, the Secretariat has set up a call center, which it hopes will help with information dissemination.
The National Cathedral Trustees and Secretariat have established a call center. Now, you would wonder why we need a call center. As you're already aware, the project is ongoing, but in order to deepen our relationship as trustees and secretariat with the generality of Ghanaians and to provide adequate information, we've established this call center for that purpose. It's an ultra-modern center which is ready to assist with information that the public needs concerning the National Cathedral project, especially those of you who are willing to contribute towards its completion.
And Joy News has been winning over the weekend. 2 Joy News journalists emerged winners at the West Africa Media Excellence Conference and Awards. I'm talking about the Wameka Awards. The two, Kwete Nate and Seth Kwame Boateng, jointly won the investigative reporting category. There's more in this News Desk report.
The 2-day event was hosted in Accra, Ghana, with participants from all over West Africa. The award scheme covers about 16 categories. Ghana was well represented with 5 finalists, 3 of which work with Joy News. For the Telecoms and ICT reporting category, Kwesi Deborah was a finalist, but Amos Abba from Nigeria won. Investigative journalist Kwete Nate won the investigative reporting category with his undercover piece titled Busted Gold Smugglers. He won jointly with Seth Kwame Boateng, both of the Joy Newsroom. And for the ultimate category, the West African Journalist of the Year, of which both Kwete Nate and Seth Kwame Boateng were finalists, Nigeria's Tessie Gomu won with her story on a Chinese recycling company polluting the Ogun community.
You still know why. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Congratulations to my colleague Kwete Nate and Seth Kwame Boateng and all the award winners. And that's how we wrap up today's edition of Joy News Prime. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com.